Hello stock gurus, and welcome to the 3rd of November presidential election special. We're going to be looking at Uber. On the New York Stock Exchange, Uber is a company I really like. I've been using Uber before. Whenever I lived in cities like Vienna or Sydney, it was just driving around using a lot Uber instead of cars. It's just amazing, especially in small cities like European cities. Vienna, you just book an Uber, in a few minutes it's outside your door, you drive to where you need to in 10 minutes and you don't need to worry about car parking, very small roads, etc, etc. Uber's amazing. I really like buying Uber. I currently own Uber as a disclaimer, so I'm going to be looking at Uber today. We're going to look at the news. Uber has some news. It's got Proposition 22 that it's fighting against California, that's trying to reclassify drivers as employees for Uber. For Uber and Lyft, currently drivers are contractors. So Uber gives them jobs and these contractors go out and work, which is not exactly true because Uber can shut them off at any moment and just cancel their license with Uber. That kind of puts them, to me, in a category of employer-employee relationship. However, Uber is trying to fight it with Proposition 22. They put $200 million this proposition, meaning I think they're putting ads and marketing to try and get people to vote to Proposition 22, to stop California reclassifying the workers as employees. Uber is also to placate the government. They're going to create a fund which will give insurance to drivers and give them sick leave and stuff like this. Uber, this is just logistical from my perspective. I believe Uber and Lyft, Uber, the first mover advantage, the one I will be buying in dollar cost averaging in every month for the next few years. If you don't know what dollar cost average in and how I teach my students to buy stocks, make sure you learn it in the Stock Guru Master Course, www.stockguru.us. In the description or the pinned comment, when you go to the comment section, you can click the link stockguru.us and you'll come up to a course website page where you buy the course. It's 8 hours of video lessons, and yes, I highly recommend it, and you'll know my strategies for investing. So I'm going to be buying Uber today. In the technical analysis, which is coming up soon, I'm going to show you the exact places that I believe Uber is going to for the long term, going to 2028, and my expectations for Uber, which are absolutely amazing. This is for me. Watch to the end of the video so you see my expectations. It'll blow your mind. It's much higher than times 10 your money. Meaning $1,000 will be $10,000, $1 million, $10 million, $1 billion, $10 billion. But these are my predictions, but I'm dollar cost averaging to Uber with this expectation. We're going to also look at the news, the fundamental analysis on Uber, check out their financials, their revenues, how much money they're making, how badly the COVID pandemic has affected Uber, how much money they have, and what's going to happen to Uber in the future. So make sure you watch the end to see that as well. And today I'm going to also make a separate video, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, predicting the movement of the US stock market, whether green or red, whether Donald Trump or Biden is going to win the election. I'm going to try and predict that in the Dow video. And if I'm a betting man, I would say Trump. Find that video also in the channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe, the bell, and the thumbs up button so you're notified of these videos, and you pop up when I release this video, Donald Trump or Biden versus Biden, the technical analysis to see. I'm not biased towards any one president. I don't care. I'm an investor, so in the long run, I'm investing 5, 10 years, 20 years in amazing high growth, massive revenue companies that I buy and become a business partner in. So presidential elections and short-term swings are just little hills on a massive mountain for me, and I don't really care about them. But it is the news and I want to report on it, and it does affect short term, but you need to get over the feeling of, oh, today is down a little bit, tomorrow is up, oh, president go down, 1 month go up. It doesn't matter, 1 day, 1 month, even 1 year. You're looking at the long-term time frame, trying to 32 times your money like Tesla, putting $10,000, you now have $320,000, putting $1 million, you now have $32 million. Match Group times 11ing your money, $1,000, $11,000, $1 million, $11 million, $1 billion, $11 billion, and that's what I'm trying to do with my investments. So this is James from Stock Guru. Let's jump into the technical analysis for Uber now. So now we're looking at Uber's charts, Uber Technologies Inc. on the monthly charts. Now, if you've never seen this before, if you don't know about my channel, we're looking at the technical analysis. We're looking at the charts on tradingview.com. And this is the price of Uber, this movement here on the screen. So we're looking at the company of Uber. It IPO'd back in June 2019. Its IPO price, the first time it was publicly released, initial public offering, IPO, the first time a company is released to the public market so investors can buy that company. So the IPO price was $42 for Uber on the open. And then it went $42 up to $50, crashing down to around $23. Yes, even lower during the global pandemic. During March, it went down to, well, big drop. Let's see. It went down to $13. Now currently $34. So you would have more than 150%ed your money. So awesome if you bought that down here at $13. Great buy. This is buying like, this company is replacing taxis worldwide. All taxis worldwide is being replaced by Uber and Lyft. So they're going to dominate a market that's massive, that spans, every country had their own whole taxi fleet. Hundreds of thousands of jobs per country were on just taxis. And now Uber owns all of them, majority of them, Uber and Lyft. So amazing company tech-wise. And if you've ever used the Uber app or used an Uber in a city, it's just amazing. Everyone knows this. It's the dominant name as well. You either go with Uber, some people go with Lyft, but the dominant name usually is the big one. So like Uber coming first, it had first mover advantage. It's called first mover advantage. Uber has the first mover advantage. It's got amazing logos, amazing design, amazing app. It was the first one to create this app and go mainstream. First mover advantage is very hard to knock out. You can always have a secondary business that's a competitor, like Lyft. That's always good because they want competition. But to take over the first spot is very difficult when it's a technology first mover advantage. So Uber is going to dominate for a very long time. Okay, back to the charts. So this is monthly charts. We're looking monthly, meaning each of these candles is 1 month. So this Uber IPO, initial public offering, release, came smashing down to 10, back up, now $36.36. Here, and now in pre-market it's $34.80. This is pre-market, the price in pre-market. I had some questions. A guy named Jimmy, who's amazing, he actually gets his daughter, who's 13 years old, to also learn the Stock Guru Master Course and look into companies, invest in companies. And she's already picking companies she likes, and she's 13 years old, and that's very good parenting by Jimmy. And he asked me to show more in-depth technical analysis that you guys like I'm going to make a deep course about technical analysis that teaches a lot more than, because technical analysis you can study for many years. It's a very big kind of education, or like people in economics, it's a big kind of section of your degree. It's just really important part, and you can study it for years. You can study your whole life. There's different patterns, different indicators, different information you can keep applying to technical analysis. So in the course, I keep it very simple, the way I do it, and that's kind of the best way. You're not flooding with too much information. RSI and stochastic, volume, trend lines, and support and resistance lines. Now to get those, because if anyone doesn't know how to set this up, I've got it more detail in the Stock Guru Master Course, but I'm going to show you. So this is tradingview.com, this charts we're on, tradingview.com. I click on indicators, and I've got these ones favorited. So these are the ones that I've favorited in indicators in TradingView. So if you want them, you need to search for them. You would click here, and then you would put the name of the indicators that I'm using. And as you know, I'm using 3 main indicators. I'm using relative strength index, stochastic, support resistance V2 indicator, and volume. So these ones are the ones that I'm using. And it's keeping it simple, but there's many. If you look at indicators, it goes on forever. Like, this is what I mean about it's a higher level of education. There's a lot you can do with indicators. So indicators are just plotting information using charts and using predefined calculations to give you results. So that's what indicators are. So that's how you set those indicators. And then that will give you RSI, stochastic, this volume, which is showing the buying and the selling of the stock. And then you can draw in support lines. And support resistance lines aren't showing here because it's on the monthly and there's not many candlesticks, because it's only a few months, it's only going back to 2019. So we don't have enough information for it to automatically draw a support and resistance line. But if I was to draw support and resistance lines, just myself, and not use that automatic tool, I would go to horizontal lines. And see, here was a resistance. Why? The price came down there and tried to like come back up, but got pushed down. It hit there, it spiked it, and then came down. It's come up close to it many times. Another resistance would be here, because you want to try and touch as many of the candlesticks as possible. That was also a resistance. It tried to touch it here, and it resisted, here resisted, here resisted. So this is a resistant line. That blue line we just drew in now is resistance. Maybe I change it to orange just to keep it the same theme as what we do. because normally I have orange line as resistance. So that's resistance. And that's resistance. So that's some resistance. Now I draw in support line, same concept. I want to touch as many times the bottom of candles, like as many candlesticks touching the line. So there is a very strong resistance. Support, sorry, because the price came down, bounced off it. Came down, tried to break through it, came back up in it. Came up, came down again, bounced it, broke through. During COVID pandemic, massive drop down in March, fear. Came up, went, bounced off it again, came up, and so that's a super strong support. Do you understand? This orange line is a very strong support. Every time the price comes down to there, it's going to be bouncing off this. It's like a super strong support, a great buying place. So that's how you draw support resistance lines. But remember, the indicator that I put here, volume, support, resistance, that will automatically draw them in, and I'll show you what I mean. If I click on 1 year, see how it automatically drew them in? Which is funny because it drew them almost exactly where I drew them. So it drew one here on top of my one that I manually put in, and it drew one here above this one that I manually put in. And then it drew one here, a massive support down to when it piped down in COVID. But see, because we're on the daily now, we get a lot more candlesticks because each candlestick represents 1 day. So when we're on the all-time frame, we're only getting monthly. We're only seeing a few candlesticks. But anyway, okay, let's jump into the technical analysis. Now you get the indicators, you know how to set the charts, support, resistance line. You can learn much more in the Stock Guru Master Course. In the description, pin comment, or www.stockguru.us. It'll completely change your trading experience. You'll go from losing money, not knowing about the stock market, to being able to make millions in 8 hours of lessons with the best knowledge. You can see like hundreds of reviews that people are just loving this course, and explains a lot of information. And yeah, let's jump into the course, the technical now. So Uber went up here, had a resistance at 42, broke through it, came back down, crashed down to 34, recovered, came down, spiking down 10, and now, but what we've drawn here, also what we saw is a support line. So Uber is climbing this blue support line. Just like we manually drew in the support resistance lines, you also draw in a trend line. This is a trend line, this blue one. Sorry, not a support, a trend line. And Uber is very carefully climbing this. So the trend is your friend. Always go with the trend, and the trend has turned up for Uber, and it's climbing this support. So it is going to come down because it needs to come down and climb again. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just goes to another level, but we can usually predict when we get in the time frames. Let's go closer because we're not getting enough candlesticks and it's annoying me. Okay, so now Uber's been climbing this trend line that I showed you. Now we have more information. Broke underneath, came back on, came. Now it's going to the upper end of this trend line. And it looks like it's going to spike up again on the daily. So this is each day. Tomorrow's trading day looks like a launch pad for Uber and a lot of stocks, again indicating Donald Trump is going to win the US elections. Based off technical analysis, not my opinion, not my hopes and dreams, not my political whatever, just based off technical analysis. Why? Stock market here is stochastic, oversold. Looks like it's curving to head up and smash up. RSI is smashing up. A little bit of low volume, but starting to spike. See how the volume got bigger? The more volume there is, the more likely you're going to have a big movement up in price. So the volume was dying. But just recently, we had a bit of a spike up, indicating it could possibly be more. And Uber is following this upward trend. And it looks like it's coming again to the top of this trend line. So indicating for the 3rd of November, Uber is going to be a green day. And it looks like it's going to launch out of this undersold in the stochastic RSI and come up to this $37 resistance and try and break through. So I just removed that trend line, the one I manually drew in, because it automatically drew it in. So on the daily, we're looking at Uber. It was heading down. It was on this trend line. It was heading down. And now the stochastic and RSI have turned to head up. So when they're below the dotted lines, it means oversold. Too much selling, it's a lot of fear, it's undervalued. Above the dotted lines, when this red and blue line go above the dotted lines and this red line goes above the dotted lines, too overbought. When it's up here, overbought. Too much buying, it's too overvalued. So at the moment, Uber's oversold and it's turned to start heading up. So indicating we're going to be heading up. Stochastic, volume slightly increasing. Uber coming to this resistance line. That resistance line is sitting at $38 mark, a 4-point movement from where we are. So indicating today, in the next few days, Uber will be going up. If it doesn't, if the stochastic and RSI turn back down again, so you're watching those while the trading day continues, if they turn and head back down again, then Uber comes to this very big support on this trend line. It would be very hard for Uber to break through this support and this trend line, which the low of this trend line would be 28. It would be very difficult because the trend line that's been going for a long time, for the whole year, and then a very strong support line just underneath it. So there's a lot of support here. So it's very unlikely that Uber turns and heads down, but if it does, it has a lot of support at this $28.72 mark. And again, if you guys are asking me, oh, can you hold the camera or something? I'm drawing with my fingers on the phone, so I want to make it more interactive. Like I can do this and draw and show you very specific things with my, yes. Okay, sorry if maybe I make the camera smaller when I'm drawing. So Uber is going up today, on my assumption, heading up to the today's election, and it's going for this resistance at the $38 mark. If it breaks it, next stop is the $42 mark. Great buying opportunity for Uber. You could wait to see after the election if it does come down, and that stochastic and RSI do come down. You could watch to see and then buy after all the turbulence. However, it looks to me like it's going to do that. And Uber, for me, in the long run, is just an amazing company. It's replaced taxis worldwide. It had first mover advantage. It's got an amazing application. It's actually amazing to use. Uber is literally amazing. You click the button and a freaking taxi rocks up to your door. You get into the door. Like, it's just amazing. It's providing jobs all over the world, making this shady taxi industry. Before it was pretty shady, you know. You get in a taxi, they charge you whatever you want. They're rude. They had no customer service. It was like, now Uber's amazing, taking that whole industry underneath its wing. Uber and Lyft, but Uber first mover. So it's an amazing long-term company. I'm buying Uber. I dollar cost average. I own Uber, and I will keep buying it because in the future, I see it as a much bigger company than a 60 billion market cap company. It should have the potential of a Facebook, or it owns all taxi industry worldwide. It's just massive. So for me, it's a times 20 potential for Uber in the long term, even more in the long term, maybe a $1 to $2 trillion company. It has the first mover advantage on a new system. So it's a lot of potential from the 60 billion market cap that Uber is. To get to 1.8 trillion, like almost 2 trillion, it would need, right now it's 60 billion, so it would need 40 times, 35 times to go from 60 billion to 2 trillion. So if you put $1,000 in the future, if Uber does grow to what I'm believing it is going to, your 1,000 would be like $32,000. $100,000 would be $3.2 million, $1 million would be $32 million, $1 billion would be $32 billion. But again, this is what I believe and this is what I'm doing. That's why I'm dollar cost averaging to Uber, but always do your own research, consult your brokers, yeah, all that kind of information. So the only thing, volume is dropping on Uber. See how the volume was higher here? And then volume is really dropping, and that's not a good sign. Volume predicts price. Dying volume here is really not good, but there is a slight spike starting. It did spike the last few days. So because of this proposition 2200 that they're talking about, which could reclassify as drivers, but the stochastic and RSI is showing that it's going to launch. We just need to see volume there. You're watching to see that volume increases. If volume increases, then it comes up and tries to break this 42. If it's weak volume, then it could just hit this 38 and then come down again, and that could possibly play out. But in the long term, Uber is an amazing buy. On the long-term time frame, remember how the first thing we look at, what's the general direction, the general trend? Uber's kind of sideways, actually, from the IPO, even down. But recently, it went down, and now its trend seems to be climbing. So the trend has changed. I would say the trend is even here. On the yearly, the trend is up, sideways even. Okay, it's sideways trending. So not an amazing short-term company to be buying, but I'm going to be buying it. So now we go into the 1 hour to find out what happens today's trading day, the 4th of November during the presidential election. So this is now hourly. Each of these candles are 1 hour. Sideways moving, 38, coming down, very sideways moving in a channel. So up, Uber's going up. It's just moving in a channel, between around 33 and 38. So usually channels just keep holding. Trending upwards, I mean, it could, the channel does seem to be slightly heading down, like fading. So it could come down to this support, and that would be a great buying opportunity. That's what it looks like it's going to do in the for Monday's trading, for 3rd of November, Tuesday's trading day. It's going to come down, looks like. That's interesting. Because here it's not showing that it's going to have a big explosive move up. On the daily, it was showing that it was going to have a big... It could. The RSI is still heading up, and stochastic has turned to head higher. It could go up for just one trading day. Okay, but it's not too much of a difference. It either goes to $37 or comes down to $33. In the long run, it's irrelevant what it does on the daily. I just do this because people want to know what's happening on the daily, but in the long run, I see companies like more like this. So I see it more like 5 years. I like buying Uber. The technology is amazing. They own the taxi industry worldwide. So what I see when I look at charts with these kind of companies is more like this for giant tech companies. I need to zoom out even more. So look at companies more in that way. Like this beginning of the trend line, Uber is just the first year, you know what I mean? Look at it more like in the long-term time frames. It's much better because then your money, your $1,000 can really 32 times then become $32,000. 10 times becomes $320,000, as I say all the time. And you can get to millions very quickly if you buy the right companies. Yes, it can take a few years, but remember, you're not just starting with $1,000. During the few years, you could just take $1,000 a month or however you make. If you make $50,000 a month, I would recommend investing $40,000 into investments. If you make $1,000 a month, then try and invest like $200 into investments. But every month, it adds up very quickly and it starts compounding. It becomes Albert Einstein's 8th wonder of the world, compounding interest. The earlier you start, like Jimmy with his daughter at 13, she's going to be set up in a multi-millionaire for life before she's 20. Just because compounding interest, the first few years, like get started as soon as possible, you know what I mean? So for me, it looks like Uber could go up a bit on today's trading day, come down. Doesn't look like going to have much of a massive move. Probably 35. Highest it could go to is 42 on a big explosive move of election. But with this weak volume, I think Uber is just going to go up to this 34, 35, 36, possibly 38, and then just keep going on its range. But in the long run, it's more the long run game for Uber. I see 5 to 10 years, Uber being $600 billion to $1.8 trillion company. It owns all taxis worldwide. Now we're going to do fundamental analysis, and this was technical analysis. Again, if you want to learn any of this and go more in depth in Stock Guru Master Course, in the description, pin comment or stockguru.us. But now we're going to do fundamental analysis and look at the news for Uber, and I'm going to actually check. Let's see how big the taxi industry is really worldwide. How much money is this taxi industry? The only thing is, my grandfather had a taxi business, and I remember that it wasn't so, like, it's good money, it's pretty good money. Yes, it hires a lot of people. Okay, we're going to check. Let's go to the news and fundamental analysis. So now I type Uber stock in google.com. Uber comes up, Uber Technologies Inc. and New York Stock Exchange, Uber. Current price up 4% yesterday. Nice explosive move, $34, and still up in pre-market another percent, $35, indicating the market's going to opening a bit strong. $61 billion market cap. This is the overall chart of Uber. $40, $41, $31, $40, $20, and now $34. So sideward moving chart. In the news, Uber and Lyft rise as investors expect California's voters to pass Prop 22. So Prop 22 is that Uber and Lyft currently Uber drivers are contractors. So they're not employees of Uber and Lyft, allowing them to pay for their own insurance and run their own businesses. And Uber and Lyft are just like kind of giving out contracts. But California was trying to stop this. They wanted to classify them as workers. And if Uber and Lyft had to classify them as workers, they'd be huge employees. They'd have to they'd have to change their business plans. So Uber and Lyft have been fighting California to pass Proposition 22. Investors expect Californian voters tomorrow to pass Proposition 22, which will allow the ride-sharing companies to maintain their current business model. If Prop 22 fails, Uber and Lyft say they will have to implement measures such as cutting the number of workers and rising the prices for riders. Lyft and Uber shares rose 4.2 and 7.3% respectively as investors expect California voters on Tuesday to pass Prop 22, which would allow the ride-sharing companies to maintain their current business model. If it passes, Prop 22 would exempt ride-sharing delivery companies from a new California law that forces such gig economy companies to reclassify their workers as employees rather than contractors and offer benefits such as sick leave and unemployment protection, which they should. They're big employers. It's true. Uber and Lyft are actually employing people. They're creating an ecosystem which people can make money in from that ecosystem, but it's just a fancy way of saying they give the contracts. They can close the contractor anytime they want. They can just fire the contractor any time they want. If they can fire them and just close their account, that means they're an employee, not a contractor. You know what I mean? If you're a normal contractor and you take contract from businesses, one client just shutting down can't shut you down. You know what I mean? You just have other jobs. But Uber and Lyft dominate the market, so you don't have other jobs. So if they shut you down, you're an employer. So anyway, they're trying to find a successful Prop 22 would undermine the lawsuit California has brought against Uber and Lyft. I think they'll fail just because a lot of people will understand what I just said. I think, if hopefully they're intelligent enough too, and then they would have to change their business model. But they're trying to change it in a different way. What they want to do, they're going to create a fund. So let's see where it says here. It doesn't say it here. But they're going to try and create a fund. There's also a lot of negative news about Uber currently. Uber Eats accused of discrimination over free delivery for black-owned. Uber stock Lyft rally, analyst Prop 22 is likely to win. Uber to report Q3 earnings. It's on November 11th, I think. Let's read it. Q3 earnings will be... Why wouldn't they say right at the beginning of the article? November 5th, after the market closed. So it was in 2 days from now. Uber will be releasing their earnings report. The coronavirus concerns updating most people confining themselves to their homes, so it really hurt Uber, which is a good time to buy. Uber is a lot lower than it should be because everyone got confined to their houses. No one was using Uber. It was just as it's like IPOing a new company 1 year in. So anytime there's so much fear and panic, it's really good times to buy. You know, so this, if you're looking at this like I am for the long term, all this news, this Prop 22, COVID, everyone locked in their homes, great buying opportunity for me. I'm like, wow, discounts, buy for a company that I want to hold on to for 10 years and I believe is going to dominate the taxi industry worldwide. So, and I believe like $600 billion to $2 trillion. So perfect time for me to be buying Uber. I'm going to buy some more today. I could wait to that support, but it's kind of irrelevant. $2 when I'm looking at like 40 times my money in the long run. I don't really care about these small amounts. The combination of positive earnings for Uber, expected earnings, Zacks rates it strong buy. It doesn't say. Uber has an earnings per share. It's still losing money. That's the only thing. Uber is still losing money. I'll show you how we know that. We go here to the financials of Uber, and this is how we do fundamental analysis. Uber Technology, American company, vehicles for hire, food delivery, and they've been making more money now from food delivery during the COVID pandemic. Couriers, freight transportation, they even have helicopters and planes that you can order on Uber. 26,000 employees, already a powerful company. Most of those employees would be, they're not drivers, drivers are contractors. So most of these employees are programmers, which is amazing. They're going to be a powerhouse. Buy, Uber, buy. Revenue 14 billion, they own all of these. Uber Eats, Postmates, Cream, founders, these two guys, Travis and Garrett. Okay, see, this is what I mean. They're losing money, but amazing revenues already. Just after IPOing, $3.8 billion in revenue for a new company. To put that in perspective, Facebook is $20 billion a quarter. A quarter means every 3 months, a publicly traded company is required by law to put out their public earnings. They have to report, they're audited externally to do their taxes and to report their earnings. And then they have to publish their earnings. So revenues, this is the revenues, meaning sales of Uber. September 2019 quarter, for 3 months of the year, they made $3.8 billion, up year on year 30%. Amazing buy, growing, revenue, growing. Net income down, they're still losing money. They lost $1.1 billion. They're still a growing company. Net profit margin, negative 30%. Cash on hand, $12 billion for a new company, a new publicly traded company. My God, they have $12.6 billion. Amazing. Buy. Cash means they're not going to go away anytime soon. They have a lot of cash to survive global pandemic. they can keep growing as a company. So I'm going to buy it. It's just more reason to buy. And then 2009, December, before COVID, $4 billion in revenue, up 36% for a new company publicly traded. Amazing. But still a loss, negative 1.1 billion, net profit margin 26%, cash on hand 10 billion. So guys, everyone's looking at me going, why would I be buying a company that's losing money? It's true. Normally, you don't want to buy companies that are losing money. But the potential of this is amazing, because it means that when Uber keeps growing their revenues, if they can then switch instead of to growth, but into like creating net income, profit, then they can switch it. They can use that revenue and then start making money very quickly, like switch from growth to profit. And then say they make 20% profit on $44 billion. That's $800 million. You know what I mean? So they're still losing 1.1 billion, but that's because they're growing. I like companies that are growing revenue and still spending, because it means they're growing. Then COVID pandemic, their revenue dropped to 3.54 billion, so it went down 1 billion. But still 14% up year on year, even during global pandemic. On a company that Uber was a driving company. So they're very smart. They changed, they showed initiative, because they switched to food delivery and maintained that while the pandemic was happening. Because before, their main business model was driving people around. During pandemic and lockdowns, no driving around. So they switched to food delivery. Amazing, showing very smart managerial system. Managers, like good run company. Net change in cash, down 2.54 billion. They have $8 billion in cash. Still huge for a new company, 1 year old, publicly traded. Very good to have $8 billion in cash. They can buy competitors, keep expanding. June 2020, 2.2 billion, down 30% year on year. They got hit hard during COVID. Net income 1.78 billion, net profit margin down 80%. Normally I would never buy a company like this based off their revenues crashing, but I just see the potential of Uber in the long term. Cash on hand 6.5 billion. So this is not 100% secure. This would be risky because their revenues and their profit margins are quite low. So if you're going to invest a lot of money, it's more of a risky play. And remember, rule number 1 by Warren Buffett: don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. So we don't invest that much into this company. You can invest, you can speculate, you can dollar cost average as it's growing to make sure its revenues grow. But putting a lump sum into Uber right now is not the best decision. For me, it is, because I know in the future, Uber is just an amazing company. I'm very good at picking these tech stocks. I picked Uber, Tesla, I picked Match, many other tech companies, and I like this. So I believe in the future, Uber is just going to be massive. But I would still dollar cost average, because that's how I buy stocks. It evens out your investment. If you don't know what dollar cost average is, you can learn it in the Stock Guru Master Course. Make sure you learn it. It's very important that you do. stockguru.us. So these are the upcoming earnings, November 5, in 2 days. If they show negative, so they're expecting negative 49 cents and revenues of 3.18 billion. So if Uber shows less than this, if they show more of a loss in earnings per share, how much money they make per share. So at the moment, Uber makes negative 50 cents per share. Revenue 3.18 billion in sales for those 3 months. The previous quarter, they were expected to lose a lot more. They were expected to lose 72 cents during lockdown and report negative 65 cents. So they did better than expected, and 2.2 billion in revenues. Now people are unlocked again. Uber will be making money again. So this should be higher. They should be doing a bit better. So that was technical fundamental analysis and the news on Uber. Most of the news is about this Proposition 20 passing. So in the short term, there is going to be volatility for Uber. Let's have a summary of it now. So in summary, I will be buying Uber. I rated a buy. In the short term, there is going to be a lot of volatility on the presidential election. On this Proposition 22, which is going to classify drivers either as contractors or drivers, which will have an effect to Uber's stock in the short term. Lockdown, global pandemic, people locking down again, no one driving around, that would also affect the stock. So there could be a lot of volatility in the short term. I expect in the long term, Uber has 20 to 40 times potential on the stock. So I dollar cost average and I buy Uber monthly. I will be buying more at the support line I showed you in the technical analysis, or even more just on the open at around $32. I don't really mind these $2 swings. I'm not a short-term investor. I'm buying companies, tech companies with very big growing revenues for the long term. So I'll be buying Uber every month. And that's my, if you have a lot of money and you're wanting to invest into Uber in one hit, don't. Dollar cost average because of the short-term volatility. If you haven't watched my course, make sure you do. It's 8-hour video lessons. It's like a university degree. You learn more than you could ever learn, even if you went to university and It's just, yes, watch my course or look at the reviews of people that have said the same thing. And I'm a genius, and I've invested in the stock market for many years. I've retired from the stock market, and I don't know, this is a passion of mine. I'm naturally brilliant at it, and I love it. So the Stock Guru course is a compilation of all my knowledge that I've learned from many different investors. So Walter John, Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, Anthony Robbins, and just many others. And it's just my experience from 17 years investing and compounding my investment exponentially. 32 times in Tesla, 11 times in Match, and many other companies. And just, yeah, I love doing it. I wake up every morning, read about stocks, look at their financials, the revenues. I've had many businesses. I've owned franchises. I've owned a construction company. I had to report profit and loss statements and many of these things that these companies fill out and do. I had to do that as well, so for many years. So I know a lot of experience in this field. So that's why I love investing in the stock market. It's just passive. You can do it from your home. I can do it from my phone. I can just buy companies online. I'm buying companies. I'm buying the biggest companies in the world. I'm buying Facebook that half the world uses. 3 billion people use Facebook. I'm buying Uber that is the biggest taxi company in the entire world. I'm becoming a business partner with them. I bought Tesla, which is like an electronic, the future of electronic space travel, cars, internet, energy, you know, buying it from my phone, from my home, in the click of a button, and investing it, and I can sell it. It's liquid. I can sell it in a few days and have it back in my account. Yeah, there's just so many benefits. The US stock market is amazing. These companies are amazing. So make sure you get the course, stockguru.us. I hope you like my analysis of Uber. I hope you have an amazing trading day. Today is the presidential election. The video I'm going to make today, also in the channel to the public, the Stock Guru channel, is the Dow video. We're going to track the US stock market to see whether it's green or red, and if Donald Trump is going to win the election. I'm going to show that on the technical analysis. My bet would be on Trump winning based off the technicals, but watch it on the channel. You can see it, and hit the subscribe button, that bell, and the thumbs up button so you're notified of all my videos. And check out that Donald Trump winning the election technical analysis possibility. I'll do a technical analysis to try and predict it. This is James from Stock Guru. Hope you have an amazing trading day. Make a lot of money in the stock market. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you again tomorrow.